Well, Robert, you've asked a very important and interesting question, and I'm happy to contribute what I can. I think the first comment that I would make is that I don't think of it so much as a stalled research career, although I have had periods in time when I am not doing a lot of research, where I'm not sure what I'm going to do next for research. I could call that being stalled, but I actually think that over the lifetime of an academic career, we have 30, 35 years, many of us, in this career. There are going to be ebbs and flows in your research output and your research ideas. There are going to be times in your career where teaching becomes very inspiring, or you decide to become an editor, or you decide to become department chair, and there will be times when your research will naturally taper off and come back as something else. I think this is very natural, and I think it's important for people not to panic when they feel that perhaps they're missing some excitement, or they're not getting the kind of reinforcement they hope for from doing their research. That would be my first comment. And if you think about Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he not only talks about starting with yourself first to change yourself if you want to change the world, but he also talks about the need for sharpening the saw, which is to sit back and reflect and just be with whatever it is that you have to deal with in the context of research. Have this sense that if there's an ebb, I will deal with it and something will come out the other end. I think a second thing that's important is at some level for research to ebb and especially to flow, to move into flow, people have to have some kind of identification with research. One of the reasons I don't worry in a angst sort of way about whether my research will come back is that part of as long as I'm a professor, that part of my life, I identify with research. I identify with doing it, and I identify with teaching it and sharing it and writing about it to other communities. So I always have faith that eventually that identification will get me through. I think that in terms of thinking of, okay, maybe I need to do something different, some of the general principles that apply, and they're research-based principles, that's research that's been done on academics, there are some principles for how to know when you're on the right track, or some things that you can do. One of them is to just really take stock of your excitement level. If your excitement level is low, that is a signal that it is time to perhaps sharpen the saw and actually take an ebb and think about that. And I love a piece of advice from Ann Huff in her book, Writing for Scholarly Publication. She says that you should think about what are the conversations, not just academic conversations, but world conversations, societal conversations, which is very connected to the theme here at this year's Academy of Management meetings where we're filming now. What excites you? What conversations are going on that you want to be a part of? And if you think about the people you most admire in that conversation, is there something you would want to add to that conversation? I think that's a very different way of thinking about it, a very different metaphor from sitting down with journals and looking for the gap in a research stream. So I would elevate it up to the level of a conversation about important problems and what does your heart tell you really want to say about this issue. And then if you have passion and excitement, that's a good signal that you're on the right track. Another piece of advice you always give about doing high-impact research, the same thing to finding a new research stream, get out and about, mingle, go to meetings, especially go to the kind of meetings where there will be conversations at tables. I sat at one of these, a junior faculty day-and-a-half meeting this here, and I was responsible for shepherding discussion of 4 young researchers' papers and ideas, and by the end of that session, every single one of those people had somehow connected with one of the other 4 people at the table to move forward and talk about the symmetries between and the synergies between their research and how they could help each other move that research forward. So I find working with other people so much easier than working alone. When I work alone, I always run into these problems. I love working with people who are strong at things areas that I'm not as strong, because whenever I come to them with a problem, they have a way to cheer me up, and I have a way to cheer them up. So I really like that. Another thing is, don't overlook serendipity or chance occasions. That's some of the most significant research that people report they've done has been the result of two things coming together that they couldn't plan. I have one field of research that I gave up on, just kind of got bored with, about 10 years ago. In the last year, maybe 4 people have asked me to write handbook chapters on this, and I haven't written in it in years, wasn't going to. And then also a consulting firm called and said, you know, we see you on the web, we have some data, we'd like to talk to you about how we can become better and we can actually become research-based consultants. And finally I said, okay, I said I was never going to do this again. I think I'm going to do this. I think this is a signal. And what I did in that case was I enlisted one of our former students, now a young professor. He really needs publications. He's interested in this area. He has different skills than I do. We're going to work together, and we're going to work with practitioners to revitalize an area of research that I think has become a little dull. And then the final thing I really would say to people is, yes, we need top research in top-tier journals to move ahead as an organization, but we need all kinds of other relationships to research as well. And maybe depending on the point in your career or depending on your individual skills and passions, maybe your relationship to research is a little bit different than always aiming for a top-tier publication. Maybe your relationship to research can be translating research to practitioners, going out as a consultant and really trying to give people frameworks and tools that come out of your research base, thinking very hard about how you can help management students. The presidential speech right here talked about how many people we graduate in business schools each year that are going to go out and manage people. And experience alone is not a great teacher. James March has shown that. We don't learn from experience in a very effective way. So how can we help all those people take research, good solid research, out into the real world? I think that the only real failure in an academic career is if at some point when your research stalls, you give up on everything. We have a very privileged career as academics. Society needs us, and I think it is a valuable contribution to find out what relationship to research you have and how you can move it out into a community and make a difference.